Hi guys, this is Investing with JYK, and yeah, if you haven't subscribed it, feel free. So today we'll keep discussing Gazprom, and we'll focus on mostly on the risk side. So Gazprom suffers from, I think, um, mostly like three uh, risks. One is political, as we have kind of touched on in the last video. There is a lot of there's a spat going on between Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine used to be very close to Russia, and then they had almost like a change of government. The government um, became closer to the U.S., and then Russia felt very threatened, and then they took over Crimea, and then all the whole sanction thing came about. So here is my take on the whole perceived Russian aggression. From what I understand, uh, Russia, the whole Russian nation is really like scarred by the Second World War, and even to this day, um, they have been invaded really badly, like in 2000, in sorry, not 2000, in Second World War, and Hitler really screwed them up. So I think that seems to be like a collective wound in for that nation. So having they really wanted some kind of buffer between themselves and the West. So Ukraine used to serve that purpose. Now that has gone to the West, so it's understandable they get very threatened. Obviously, you know, um, taking over Crimea is a different thing. But if you think along these terms, you can see why they do certain things, and then why Russian, like you don't hear much of strong opposition to Putin, because he see to in their minds he is behaving in their interest, at least with the whole annexation of Crimea. Um, and the other thing is obviously the U.S. U.S. Russia relation, and if that goes bad, it could be to a point where you can no longer trade Gazprom shares, and you're forced to liquidate. Those are typically the worst cases, because now you have a lot of selling pressure, and even if you want to hold, you can't. Next thing is uh, really just like domestic discounts. So they sell their gas much cheaper domestically than internationally, which kind of makes sense. But then if you think about it more, it feels like the Russian government is using Gazprom to buy support, right? So it's your money getting Putin his support. It's not that you're paying for it, in the sense that it's the money that's supposed to come to you now is being used for something else. And that actually leads into a very interesting observation. So if you search for the word donation, you can see there are 33 donations. Hmm. I usually don't like the whole donation crap, but okay. So what do they do with your donations? It made donations to maintain 63 memorials in Russia's hero cities and cities of military glory. Okay, whatever that means, they're using some money. I don't like that. And now, uh, here, let's make it bigger. More donations. Yay! So here is 82 million, right? So divide by 60, so that's like 1.5 million. Converting that to dollars, so 1.5 million dollars in here. And let's look for the next one. And so you got again, one here is 81. They got an 82 and then I have an 81. I bet this Gubkin Russian State Oil and Gas University has better relationships than St. Petersburg State University of Economics. I mean, clearly this thing says oil and gas, right? So it makes perfect sense that they receive 1 million more rubles. Anyways, another 1.5 million. Keep in mind their revenue is about 100 billion dollars. Right, so let's just pull those numbers up. Does this one tell us? No, this one. Yeah, okay, we can deduce from here. Their profit is 951 billion rubles. So divided by 60 is like $100 billion. $100 billion seems excessive. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, that seems excessive. Am I missing something? These are millions, right? So you put you put 6 zeros after that, 951 billion. If you divide by 60, you're looking at $150 billion in profit? No way. Yeah, 13 billion. Am I calculating this wrong? 951 divided by 60. Oh, I was divided by 6. I'm crazy. Anyways, they make about 13, 15 billion dollars, and they're donating $1 million there, $1 million here, and then if you keep going down this rabbit hole, you would see here half of that. So like 1.5, 1.5, 0.75, and what else do they have? What else do they donate? More here, some more donations. Seems to be decreasing. So you get the idea. They donate, let's say, you know, on the order of millions. So total, maybe they have. I didn't look at the entire thing. I'm assuming they probably donate maybe like 10, 15 million dollars. It's not a huge amount, but that tells you that. I mean, think about it. Why would they ever donate to these state universities? It's probably because of the government's pressure. So the Russian government is a majority shareholder. They basically get to do whatever shit they want to do with the money. So um, I bet in 2018 they probably have to chip a lot of money out for the Russian World Cup. So yeah, just be prepared that whatever profit that was supposed to come to you some of that will get diverted out, and there's nothing you can do about it. And yeah, so that's like a capital allocation risk coming really from the political risk, and then um, simply because it's a state-owned enterprise. And then the other capital allocation risk that also stem from that is maybe they will just build some pipelines because of national security reasons or whatever. There is an interesting pipeline that they have that has very little capacity, but somehow, oh, where is that? Let me find the pipeline graph. Where is the pipeline graph? Why do they put all these photos of people. Like, who cares? Um, you can see here seems still okay, but look at here. They built a pipeline all the way through Minsk, which is I think that's Belarus, and then Vilnius is Lithuania, I think, going into this Kaliningrad. That is actually Russian territory, which is a really weird thing. But they would have Russian gas supplied to them, and this line is really long. Has like, if I remember correctly, has something like 1 or 2 billion cubic meter of capacity. So this is clearly not a profitable line. So they will be made to just build these unprofitable lines. Right? So the capital allocation is going to not be good, and that somewhat comes through their return on equity and return on asset. They get only 5%. Of course, a lot of that has to do with the commodity price, but still, this is you have to be cognizant. We, especially, I mean, talking about you as in like the general you, me being a shareholder, I have to be cognizant of what these people are doing with the money. And the other risk is going to be currency risk. So the currency risk is not as bad as you think. Russian currency actually goes up and down a lot. So if you look at just here, it went down something 0.017 plus 215, so that's 0.02. That is more than 10% drop in a single day. So this has a smaller effect as you would think, because this actually only affects Russian ruble denominated currencies, which are the low margin domestic sales. For international sales, they actually sell in USD or Euro. So if ruble became weaker, their cost goes lower. So the profitability actually would slightly increase. So that's actually not as bad as it seems. The next thing I worry about is substitution. Right. So at the moment, the most efficient way and the cleanest way of heating is natural gas. I don't see any alternative. If you say, oh, I'm gonna get solar to get electricity and then convert to heat, it's super wasteful. And then the other thing is, what about substitution from other suppliers? Can pipeline gas be replaced by LNGs, basically? So I looked into first how much these things are selling for. If we look at Russian gas, currently it's $7 per million BTU, and natural gas in US is only $2.7 per million BTU. Now, that clearly says there's a huge gap, so maybe US will be able to take over the European market. So there are two reasons I think why this won't happen, at least in the short term. First, the cost of oops, that's wrong. The cost of LNG, I made a calculation here. It consists of two things. One is making the LNG, transporting it, and regasify it. Right. So if you look at, these are the numbers I was able to come up with, and I looked at this figure in two different ways, and it seems to check out. So there is a news article talking about how Poland is losing money on the gas they sold to Ukraine, which was bought from the US. So you can see here you got the liquefaction cost of $79 per 1,000 cubic meter. So now we have to do some stupid conversion again. As I said in the previous video, the natural gas business people can't decide on their units, but based on my conversion, that turns out to be about 2.237 whatever dollars per million BTU. And then also you got, if you convert this transportation cost here, you get about $1.1. So these are specially built vessels that just transport LNGs on the ocean. And the other thing is regasification. That does not appear here. So I looked up another article, not article, EIA report, which talks about China and then LNG stuff, Chinese LNG imports. So it talks about it here. It says regasification costs approximately $1. $1. So that I put 1 here. So the cost total became 7, around just 7.08 actually. So then I looked at here. It turns out that Chinese LNG import price is also about. Chinese LNG import price is actually slightly higher. Mainly, I think because if we get it from Qatar, that's one thing. If we get from the U.S. gas is mostly on the East Coast, so maybe the ship has to go further. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's cost a lot more. That's actually true. Cross-country long-haul transportation in eastern provinces. Although that's Kazakhstan though. That's the pipeline. And the pipeline was actually $1.8 cheaper than LNG. Yeah, so okay, so for Chinese, the landed LNG import price is $7. I think it's probably because it's slightly further away than Poland from on the sea. So that number, I think, checks out. The other cost involved is the building of the infrastructure. For pipelines, obviously, you have to build the pipelines. And for LNG, you have to build the terminals, at least the receiving terminals. So I looked up this little thing. So they have this graph. So it has a reasonable correlation. So for every one, okay, here's another unit. 1.5 million ton per year capacity. It costs about $1 billion to build. And so each 1 million ton of LNG translates to about 1.38 billion cubic meters. So at least the cubic meter stuff is used by Gazprom, so we can actually compare. So the cost. So first of all, I computed for each let's see, this is 1.5. Yeah, for each $1 billion. So 1 billion. Oh, this is actually wrong. So it should be 1 divided by that. Yeah, so it costs about $500 million to build a terminal that processes 1 billion cubic meters a year. And for the pipeline, I'm going to use TurkStream as an example. And we got it here. So Gazprom is going to invest $7 billion on TurkStream, and that is a 930 kilometer pipeline, which isn't short. And it carries 31.5 billion cubic meters per year. So you can see the infrastructure cost is actually the initial capital expenditure is basically lower for the same capacity. So these are the advantages. And the other interesting thing is if you look at the U.S. Natural gas price that I computed that the Europeans be able to get, $7. That's basically the same as Russian natural gas. Ta-da! $7. So market, the magic of marketplace. Okay. Yeah. So basically, the conclusion is really U.S. natural gas. U.S. basically sells natural gas at the same price as Russia, but Russia actually has a lot more flexible demand, and in this case, it's very important for energy security. If you look at this winter, Europe had a especially cold February when their gas supplies are all, I mean, their storage was all depleted. So Russia was able to increase supply on demand. That's something that the US probably couldn't do because you're constrained by the regasification terminal, the liquefaction terminal, as well as the number of vessels available at any given time. And for pipelines, you could actually just build one with spare capacity and then just pump more when needed. Okay, so these are the risks that I see in Gazprom, and you probably see me not digging too much into their gas fields and how large their deposit. I think in the analysis of Gazprom, that is really not too interesting. Obviously, we want them to have the gas available, but that's not what I worry about. In any case, even if they don't have the gas, they can buy gas from other Russian gas companies. And they are the only one that can export, so they will still be able to export. And the other very interesting thing is there is a company called Gazprom Neft, which is a subsidiary of Gazprom that is also publicly traded. This company is like 90-something% owned by Gazprom. But if you look at the the market cap, you're looking at $24 billion of market cap. So Gazprom should at least 20 billion of that should come from here. And the PE on this one is higher too. And if you do look at OGZPY, the whole thing is only $50 billion, $53 billion. So, and then I struggled a lot to find how they accounted for Gazprom Neft. This on their balance sheet, it was really difficult to find. I should stop clicking on myself. Gazprom Neft. Yeah, so they have this oil business, and then the Gazprom Neft is arguably a much better run business than Gazprom. It's slightly more expensive, but theoretically, by buying Gazprom, you already own a shit ton of Gazprom Neft. So let's go down a bit more. It's actually really hard to find, and it's kind of late. So we'll call it a day. And yeah. So whenever we invest in any company, we have to keep all the risks in mind as much as possible, and we have to weigh it. It's not a nice feeling. It's something that, from what I read, humans are just inherently have an aversion to. We don't like conflicting messages. We like essentially the sameness of the message. We want confidence, and in investing, I don't think confidence is as much of a big issue. It's really how to weigh these evidences. And for me, given the cheapness of Gazprom, I'm okay living with all these risks that we mentioned in this video. See you guys next time.